threads. But when stuff actually does go wrong and stuff actually does go sideways, I really try and make sure, like, okay, is this overreactionary Kyle, or is this a real thing? And if you would like to, so I don't think there's any overreaction today that is off base. Let it fly at 916-909-1320. Raiders, Niners, Kings. Fire away. I don't think there's, whatever your take, I'm not going to call it an overreaction.
Bring it.
But I've got nothing, dude. Here, we'll start with the Kings. Here's my, again, maybe an overreaction, but everything's on the table today.
Okay.
This is not the only thing wrong. This is just the first thing I'm going to point out. This is not the only thing. It's just the first thing. We're 17 games into the season. We're 15 games into DeMar DeRozan? You missed 2?
Something like that, yeah.
We're 14 or 15 games into the DeMar DeRozan experience.
14 games. He did miss 3.
14 games. And I don't know that how has he not figured out that this is De'Aaron Fox's team, man? I don't know that he can coexist with another ball-dominant guard who's just significantly better than him. Because whatever that was last night at the start of the third quarter, where De'Aaron has 24 points in the first half.
On 7 of 9 shooting.
On 7 of 9, 24 points on 9 shots? Are you kidding me? That's the kind of half where you go, hey, feed that guy the rock. He's going for 50 tonight. And we know he can do it because he just did it twice in a row. Two games in a row, 2 nights in a row.
2 times.
He just did that. He did it, exactly. I know 49 the one night, but you get it. It's close enough. That's a game where you go, hey, this is De'Aaron Fox's to take over. This is an inferior Nets team, or should be an inferior Nets team. They're really well coached. Shout out to Jordy Fernandez. They play their asses off. Salute. But that's a game that De'Aaron Fox, give him the rock and let him go win it. The DeMar DeRozan plot into a tough contested jumper when you've got De'Aaron Fox, who's 8th in the league in scoring.
Something like that.
6th, 7th, 8th. He's right in that range in the league in scoring. He is scorching hot. I don't want tough DeMar DeRozan 17-footers, man. Give it to number 5. Let him go. End of the game. Kings get it to 4. DeMar brings it, for whatever reason, DeMar brings the ball up the floor and uses like all 8 seconds to get across the timeline with 22 seconds left. What is it? This is not this team did not need DeMar DeRozan to be the focal point. Having him as an additional scorer, as that secondary scorer, is that option like, hey, you know what? Just nobody's got it tonight. DeMar, you got to go. They got to figure this out. This is the single biggest thing. Now, they got to make shots. They got to do all this other stuff, and we'll talk about all that. But the DeMar DeRozan fit, or him picking his spots better or differently, is the number one thing to me they have to figure out, because right now, whatever it is not working.
Yeah, I'm with you. So here's how I kind of look at it. When we watch De'Aaron Fox go for 60 and then 49 in back-to-back games, I'll point out that the Kings were 1-1 in those games.
Yeah.
The Kings, with De'Aaron Fox being that guy, they're not good enough to win 50-plus games.
Sure.
They're good enough to win 40-something, but what they needed was DeMar DeRozan or Domantas Sabonis or Malik Monk to help them get into that next conversation.
Yeah.
Right? But then when you start piecing those things in, if they don't understand how to fit with De'Aaron Fox, we talked about this coming out of last weekend.
Yeah.
This is a moment where everybody else has to look at De'Aaron Fox in a different way and understand that he's special. And if you want to be special too, the best way to do that is to jump on board that train. Mm-hmm. He is the bus driver. He is the head of the snake. He's the guy that will carry you as far as you can go. And you have got to like push him forward and say, go for it. This is what we all need. We all need for you to be that guy. Now, that doesn't mean that DeMar DeRozan can't score 20 points. It doesn't mean that Domantas Sabonis can't post a triple-double.
No doubt.
But what it does mean is that the entirety of this team should be focused on how do we get that guy to get even better?
Mm-hmm.
Because when he gets to the lane and the entire lane collapses, now everybody else is wide open.
Yep.
And the problem is this team, A, can't hit wide open shots, and
That's another
B,
problem.
the two players that we're talking about that just came back in Domantas Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan, they're not 3-point shooters. And
Nope.
so they're not sitting there waiting for this to be fed like the rest of the team. And so I don't know what to make of it. Man, it's looking more and more like a poorly constructed roster and a head coach that's trying to piece things together. I mean, when you have to go out there, and this is not a slight on Colby Jones at all, but when Colby Jones has to play 17 minutes in a game, something has gone horribly wrong, Kyle.
He's not a solution.
No, he's a young player who doesn't have enough experience.
Correct.
Who has not had a good run at all over the last 6 months. Like his training camp, his preseason, his summer league, not great at all. But Mike is searching for someone. You know, again, I get it why you would run him out there. He's a big guard. We saw the block that he had on Cam Thomas at the rim. Unbelievable. So the tools are there. The experience isn't. And when you have one young guy who's playing alongside a bunch of seasoned veterans, but I don't know what else Mike Brown is supposed to do, because he's tried Jordan McLaughlin, and against a big team like the Nets, Jordan is going to have a tough time.
Yep.
He just is.
Yes.
He's tried Doug McDermott, and for whatever reason, Doug McDermott, who is a 41% career 3-point shooter, cannot shoot the ball right now, and he can't find his rhythm. Like, he's tried different pieces, but at what point do you look over and say, hey, I don't know that this is the group that can do it? And not having pieces hurts, but everybody in the league is playing without pieces. You're going to face an OKC team tonight without Chet Holmgren, who just got their center back.
Yep.
Who's
maybe without Alex Caruso.
Yeah, who no Alex Caruso, banged up, right? Look at the Pelicans. The Pelicans, I looked the other day, they signed Elfrid Payton and started him. Elfrid Payton did not play in the league last year. They signed him and started him alongside Brandon Boston, who was on the Clippers through training camp, got waived. They picked him up somewhere along the way. That was their starting backcourt. So I don't want to hear people say, oh, they're beat up, or, oh, we're missing games. Like, no, man. Like, every team in the league is facing the same exact thing. Every team in the league is played 15 games in 26 or 27 days. Every single team. There is not one team that has played 10 games and the Kings have played 16.
Yeah.
That's just not happened. So, like, everybody's in the same boat. And the problem is the Kings can't figure out some very basic things. But the biggest thing I feel they can't figure out is how to share.
Yep.
That's it. Like, this team went from being one of the great passing teams ever to just a sticky, ugly brand of basketball half the time. And I don't understand it.
21 assists last night. 7 of them from Domas, 5 from De'Aaron, 5 from DeRozan.
Yeah.
They don't pass it the way they used to. And that also kind of goes back to the DeMar DeRozan thing for me. Feels like the ball stops with him a lot, which is just not how this offense can function. The shooting continues to baffle me. Like, they made 36% of their threes last night. Like, that's an okay number. You feel pretty good about that. It took 25 of them.
They were outscored by 30, 57 and 27.
30 points.
57 to 27.
Like, you're not going to be able to keep up in the NBA shooting 25 threes a night.
No.
Unless you're going to shoot 20 of 25, which most teams aren't. So
you're also not going to survive when your bench is outscored 44-9.
Come on, man. Keon Ellis is the one guy who scored off the bench.
And they didn't feed him. He hits his first 3 threes, and then they just forgot about him.
Nothing. I don't know if you asked what does Mike Brown do here. And again, we're venting frustrations. 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. It's the Elk Grove Kia talk line. Frustrated with the Raiders, frustrated with the Niners, frustrated with the Kings. We're on the Kings right now. But we're happy to hear from anybody who's frustrated, anybody who's mad. And if you want to bring some levity, maybe you still feel great.
Yeah.
Would love to hear that too. And that's the thing. With the Kings specifically, is their season over? No. But boy, it is teetering. It is the whole, like, I've been on 51 wins since the start of the year. I'm off 51 now. I'm back to like 48.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, because what? What is no?
I'm with you.
What is different from this year from last year? What's different? What has this team done this year that makes me think, oh, they're going to be different? They're going to win way more games than last year's team did.
Yep.
We're 17 games in, dude. That's a fifth of the way through the year. Now, again, is the season over? No, but something's got to be different. Whether it's DeMar DeRozan fitting differently like we've talked about, whether it's guys starting to hit shots, maybe this is what Mike Brown does. Maybe we do. We've talked about this before. Maybe you just start Trey Lyles. Maybe you start Keon Ellis. Maybe do something. Maybe that's because that's really the only recourse.
Well, yeah, but I feel like if you're going to start Keon Ellis over Kevin Huerter, you're treating a symptom. You're not treating.
No, I understood.
The core issue.
Yeah, no, understood. But if you're asking like, hey, what's Mike Brown supposed to do? Like, try Mason Jones next time. Give Isaac Jones some burn.
Yeah.
Like, is this really where we're at? Because if that's where we're at, I don't like it. That's the only other recourse to me is, all right, maybe switch something up in the starting lineup. Maybe Malik Monk coming back changes everything. But I don't think Malik Monk off the bench is gonna substantially change kind of the core issues here that the Kings are dealing with.
Well, that and man, this is a slippery slope, man. I think a lot of people, I hear it all the time. Oh, fire this guy, fire that guy. Like, look at what you're proposing. First of all, firing a coach midseason never does anything well. There is not a moment in Kings history where firing a coach midseason helped. Just straight up. Mm-hmm. It doesn't help. And so what that is it's the last deflection of general manager who's next. That's what firing a head coach is. Mm-hmm. What you have to do in these situations is back your head coach and hope that your head coach can figure it out and then go fortify the roster, try to get them some different pieces to try to work with it. And I'm not saying go make some wild trade, but you still have an open roster spot. Go try something. Yeah. Try a Jay Crowder. Try somebody that can defend the three, at least somebody. Yeah. But if the noisy crowd out there that wants Mike Brown fired, okay, what's next? Because I'll tell you, let me just give you a glimpse into what that window looks like, Kyle. You fire Mike Brown, this doesn't get better. I'm gonna guarantee it, because the next option is, are they gonna promote Jay Triano? Are they gonna promote Luke Laux, or are they going to promote Doug Christie? Right. So now we're heading down this other path, which again, Doug Christie was a choice of Vivek Ranadive in the past. So Doug, me and Doug have been friends for a long time. I don't know what's happening there, but I would just tell you that that's probably the path that we're talking about. Now, if that doesn't work, then all hell breaks loose, because now you have a GM who's shot his one bullet. The one bullet is gone. There's nothing left in the chamber.
Shout out Jack Sparrow.
You're done. You shot your one bullet, right? So now is he next? And oh, by the way, we keep talking about De'Aaron Fox and whether he's going to sign his massive max money extension next summer or not. De'Aaron Fox was over the moon excited when Mike Brown got this job. Whether that's still the case or not, I don't know, but I'm going to pretty much guess that yes, that they're still on board with what's happening and they want this thing to get better. They don't want it to get worse. He's not doing it again. I'm going to just tell everybody out there.
He said that in The Athletic.
De'Aaron Fox is not doing it again.
Nope.
He's not starting over.
Nope.
So if all the noisy people out there want Mike Brown fired, which could lead to Monty McNair getting fired, which could lead to De'Aaron Fox by February saying, hey, I'm good. I'm out. Yeah. I want out. I'm not signing my extension this summer. I'm out right now.
Yeah, and he said as much in The Athletic.
Yeah.
He said, I think he told Slater, or he who must not be named, Sam Amick. I think it was Amick, right?
Yeah.
Told him, I want to be here, but I also got to know that there's steps being taken toward winning.
Yep.
And I think firing your head coach mid-season and bringing on a first-time interim head coach are really going to make it better.
Yeah.
And like you said, by the end of the year, is that the thing that's got everybody excited? Like, hey, all right, new coach. I saw somebody compare this to Golden State with Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson took the Warriors to the playoffs in 2013, 2014. They got rid of him, and then they hired Steve Kerr, and the ascension happened. But Mark Jackson was not a well-liked person, but there were so many issues there.
Yeah.
That were going to hold the Warriors back. And they said, okay, we need a coach to do X, Y, and Z, and that'll take this core group of players to the next level. That's not to me where the Kings are at. I've not seen anything from Mike Brown that makes me think, man, he's holding this roster back. I think there's issues with the roster.
Yeah.
And we talk about this a lot, and I don't think anybody would disagree if you said, hey, where are the holes on this roster? I think everybody would probably list the same handful of things. You need size and athleticism on the wings. Probably use some athleticism behind Domas.
Yep.
Like that's I think kind of the consensus. But I personally am not at the point that I think, oh man, Mike Brown is just tapped out.
No,
this is not that's not where my head's at. Again, if your head is there, give us a call on the Elk Grove Kia talk line. We'll talk about it. But if that's going to be your solution, is fire Mike Brown, there's another step. That has to be a two-part solution. And that second step better be damn sure that coach is going to be better than Mike Brown, or going to offer better ideas than what Mike Brown currently has. Because I don't think it's a coaching issue.
I don't think it's a coaching issue either. We talked about running it back last season. That was the entirety.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how they're not running it back right now. Just because DeMar DeRozan is there and Harrison Barnes isn't, the other guys are all the same. You have a draft pick that's not going to play until January at the earliest.
Maybe.
And even when he does show up, he's a rookie who's missed all of training camp, all of summer, all of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly are you expecting? Are you expecting him to show? This is not Christian McCaffrey walking through the door after 10 games. And heaven forbid, that hasn't even worked, Kyle.
Yeah, boy.
And that's Christian McCaffrey. So what exactly are we expecting? Like, this is a major issue that is like permeating through the entire franchise at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, are you going to be tough enough to fight through a downturn and figure your way out together as a collective?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you going to buckle under the stress and start making ridiculous moves that are negatively impact not only the future, not today, but the future and the long-term future of this team?
Yeah.
Are you going to knee-jerk reaction, or are you going to calmly figure out how to get through it?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest question that I have right now, because I've done this too many times. This is year 15 for me. I went through 9 head coaches in the first 12 years that I covered this team. So many knee-jerk reactions.
Yep.
And a lot of them, like, hey, Paul Westphal, just not a great coach. We got to get rid of him. It's like, okay, well, it could be that you have the lowest payroll in the league for 2 years in a row. It could be that you traded for Marquise Daniels so you could hit the salary cap floor when he is retiring because he hurt his neck and he's never going to play again.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why you're not winning.
Yep.
You know, there's way too many times in the course of this franchise where they do something silly and just like, oh, we've got to make a move. They make a move just to make a move.
Yep.
I don't know what to say. At this point, I mean, 8-9, really, it's not great, but it's also not like the biggest panic moment. And tomorrow...
Yeah, you're not the Sixers right now.
No. But tomorrow when we show up and they're 8-10 and they've lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder, it's also not the time to fire everybody. It doesn't
get easier.
It does not get easier, Kyle. It doesn't get easier.
It sure doesn't. 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320 if you'd like to join the conversation. Mitch in New Jersey, get us started. Where are you at?
How's it going, buddy? doing some landscaping. I keep doing these leaves over and over. I'll give you my green card if anybody wants to use me, if I could be of any use.
Perfect.
I would have called you at the post-game show, but, I'm on the most wanted, at your station, 95 cent, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get to talk to you guys and a few more.
Appreciate you.
I had a bad game for 49ers and the Kings. I almost see a similar power. All that talent. I mean, I don't understand that division. That division took a beating this weekend, but the 49ers, I mean, look at the Ravens won a Super Bowl with a bad quarterback. Great defense, and they just had enough weapons.
Yep.
49ers got good weapons, pretty good defense, just not showing up and getting injured and everything. Thanks for taking my call.
Perfect. Thanks, Mitch. Yeah, we'll get to the 49ers here in a second.
I will say
they
this,
have a
though.
boatload of problems of their own, and Mitch just hit on a bunch of them.
You know what? Mitch brought up something there, though, and it's something that he inadvertently brought up. It's that he's been raking leaves, and they just keep falling. It's like the 3-point shooting with the Sacramento Kings. It is their defense specifically. It's just like every single time that you think you've cleaned it up, you turn around and there's a whole bunch more leaves there. And I don't know how else to, at some point you can't let a team like Brooklyn, who I don't even know where Brooklyn stands in 3-point shooting coming into last night. But I can tell you that I don't think that they're number 1 or number 2, but when you give up 19 threes to them and you give up 13 in the first half?
They were 5th now at 38.2%.
Yeah. Where were they before last night? I'm going to guess they were probably 8th before last night's game. Right? So that could be a good 3-point shooting team. And if it is a good 3-point shooting team, why are you allowing 19 threes?
19 of 39 is insane. 48%, almost 49%.
Yeah. But look, this is the same exact thing every single game.
Yeah.
You can't defend the 3, you can't hit the 3.
Yeah.
You got 3 games that we thought, oh, they fixed it. The Kings can shoot the 3 again. Then you played the Clippers, and I don't...
10 for 61 this year against the Clippers.
I think I watched the same game everyone else did. I don't think that there was some magical defensive performance by the Clippers. It just felt like an everyday average game where you just missed a whole bunch of wide open shots.
It felt lackluster for sure.
Yeah.
I see a bunch of people trying to call. Again, we don't have a call screener, so we can't really put people on hold like normal. So I'm going to go to a caller. Manny, I see you calling. Hang in there. I promise we'll get to you. We got somebody ahead of you, though, on the Elk Grove Kia talk line at 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. Don, you're on the Insiders with Kyle and James. What's up? Hey, Don, talking to you. Let me try this. David?
Hello.
Hey, you're on the Insiders with Kyle and James. What's up?
Hey, I'm doing well. Look, I think we don't hit the panic button. I really don't like any talk about getting rid of the coach. Look, we're 8-9, right? We're almost at 500. I remember not too long ago where we would have killed to be 500. So, shooting can be streaky. We just gotta relax and just keep drilling on the fundamentals. We got to get our passing game down because our offense is dependent on getting that extra pass in there, and then we got to play better defense. We've never played great defense, but we got to fix that. But at the end of the day, it's about hitting these threes and doing it in a way that's smart and not just running down the court with 20 seconds left on the shot clock and jacking up a 3. We keep doing that too much. We don't go to the basket. We don't draw the and one. Our front line, I mean, I love Demonis. He reminds me of Lottie, but he is miles away from being as tough as Lottie is on the defensive end. We're too soft on the interior, and we have too many shooters and not enough distributors and passers.
Cool.
So give Mike some time. We're not firing him. We're 8-9. We're right where we're right within striking distance. We're 1 win streak away from being the 4 seed. I mean, come on, we're not that far away.
Thanks, David. Appreciate the call, man. All right, lots to chew on there. we will address some of what he said after the break. There was something he said in there that I don't want to say struck a nerve, but really stuck out to me, and I want to address it next. Manny, I see you on the line. We'll get to you after the break as well. 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320 if you'd like to join the conversation. He's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. We're the Insider, sponsored by Jiffy Lube here on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader. Clear.
Oh, it's weird wearing headphones.
Sorry, man.
I forgot my earpieces today. Got the large headphones on.
That's great.
Yeah, vibes are definitely down. I agree with this sentiment.
Oh, I need to figure water. I'll be right back. I thought this was full, and it is not.
Are you gonna go drink some water and be nice to people?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do, actually.
There it is.
I'm going to go find someone to smile and say hello at.
I'm gonna deal with the good people who are not smiling. Aldrin J, I just want to punch you and Saquon Barkley in the face. In my other league, not the Swift Kirk and the Dickers. The Swift Kirk and the Dickers keep rolling. We're inevitable. We are like by far an amazing team. But my other league, we were up 86, and the guy has Lamar Jackson, Lad McConkey, Flowers, and Mark Andrews going tonight. Oh, and he had Saquon. And now we're up like 42, and we're done. I'm just angry. Me and my son are like, okay, if he can just stay around like 18 points, we'll be okay. No, 42 points. David, have I seen anything? Yeah, I mean, like, look, he got caught in a weird moment, and yeah, sometimes you look foolish out there, but at least he was trying. I also saw the play where he absolutely clamped Cam Johnson, and like I thought Kevin did a strong job for a guy who wasn't hitting his shots. I'm gonna say no. They're not gonna give us money. There's a couple of reasons for that, but I'm not gonna get into it.
Well, that was scary. Normally, so we have a TV in here that shows that TV that says Odyssey right there. That's like the official clock on that TV.
Yep.
There's one of those TVs in every studio, so we can see what stations are on air, what stations are not, et cetera, et cetera. That clock is what I use when I'm in the kitchen from Studio One, because you can see the clock from the kitchen in Studio One.
Oh.
And I went to go look because I was chit-chatting with Seth. I was being nice to Seth.
Yeah.
And I went to go get my water, and I was like, I'm not really sure how long I've been out here. And so I went to go look to see the clock. That screen in there is broken. It's not up.
Oh.
So I had no idea what time it was, and I raced back in there.
Uh-huh.
We made it. It was just scary for a second because reliably looked over at the clock and it's just gone.
Yeah, Mark, I would agree here too. Yeah, I think everyone in Sacramento should have some serious PSD from the potential of a GM showing up on a radio show.
If you'd like to be on our radio show, though,
I'll ask him next time I see him.
Money, how do you feel about cereals?
Yeah, we would definitely make sure to ask him about what cereal he likes to eat. They've decided to have Go squeeze.
Go squeeze is crazy.
Applesauce in the studio now.
Go squeeze is insane.
I'm here for it.
Here we go.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
That's James. I'm Kyle.
I think
if you're
we just-
watching on the stream, you're just watching us vibe out to no music.
That's
This
what we
is,
need to do.
This is what it sounds like. Hey, there it is. Anyways, James there. I'm Kyle. Jiffy Lube's the sponsor. If you're on the line right now, hang in there. I promise we're going to try and get to everybody. 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. They won't give us a producer, so we have to screen calls on the fly. So, James, here's what I'm going to do. This is no disrespect. We will get to 6 quick thoughts here in a moment. I just want to make sure that we're hearing from the people. So we've got Manny on the line. Manny, thoughts on the Kings? Go ahead.
What's up, man? I don't know what the last caller was drinking, but I can't blame him for drinking either. So
Yeah, Jaffield.
I'm gonna start real quick with Monty not addressing needed positions in the last 2 off seasons. Like, I feel like that's a lot of what this is stemming from, and even to the point of where this is causing everyone wants so much out of Keegan right now to be the all everything, and there's nothing behind him. So like, he gets a lot of people like get antsy and oh, well, when's he going to develop? Like, the kid is an amazing player overall. Like, yeah, maybe the shot's not falling right now, but he does a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
But then my one comment towards the whole domino effect of all this, everybody's worried about Fox leaving this person, whatever. What happens when, and if this is true, if Monty's not addressing what Mike needs, at what point does Mike just throw up his hands before he becomes a scapegoat for this team and say, I don't want to coach here anymore because you're not getting me the players that I need? I'm not saying that's what's happening, but it doesn't look like Monty has addressed a lot of what a coach like Mike seems to need to get what he needs done.
No doubt. Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate you, man. That is a, what's the, I don't want to, it's not to this level because I'm going to bring the 49ers into the conversation here. If you'll remember the end of the Jim Harbaugh era, they went 8-8 in the 2014 season. And there was a bunch of friction between Harbaugh and Trent Baalke and Jed York, the team CEO. And Trent Baalke, the GM, won a power struggle and then got fired 2 years later.
Yep.
After 2 more head coaches came through. What Manny brought up, and again, 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320 if you'd like to join the conversation. What Manny brought up is my greatest fear in all of this. Is that there's a disconnect between the front office and the coaching staff. And that the front office that has left this roster short at kind of the same spot for the last 3 years is going to win out in a power struggle. Again, not talking about right now, but over the course of this season, if it continues going this way, that is my greatest fear here. That, man, they are careening very quickly. And last caller was right. They're 8-9. Season's not over. They win 4 games in a row. They beat OKC tonight. We're coming in tomorrow like, hey, that's a good win. Get you back on track. Like, you'd feel better. But at the same time, it feels right now, today at 10:37 a.m. on Monday, November 25th, like they're careening toward disaster. And that's the disaster I think they're careening toward, because it doesn't feel like Mike Brown and Monty McNair, not that they're like clashing, but that they are not on the same page about what this team needs to get better.
Well, that, and every time we hear Monty McNair talk about the team, he talks about offense. And every time we hear Mike Brown talk about the team, he talks about defense, and that he also understands that the offense needs to be better and that he teaches more offense than he does defense by like 3-1.
Sure.
The problem is that this team is shooting 33.2% from 3. 33.2%. That's the roster that Monty McNair has assembled. If you want offense, that's the problem here is offense.
Mhm.
I mean, sure, the 3-point shooting is bad.
Mhm.
The 3-point defense is bad, right? But again, if you look at the grand scheme of things, we talked about it when the Kings were allowing 15 threes and they're scoring 10.
Mhm.
And so every single game they're giving up 15 points, right?
15. They're starting in a 15-0 hole basically every game.
Well, and last night was 30. So if you're starting in a 15-0 hole, right?
Yeah.
Like, part of this is that you've got to hit more threes, and part of it is you have to defend the three better.
Mhm.
And you can close that gap somehow.
Mhm.
But it's not happening. You're not finding the way to close the gap. So number one, the defenders aren't good enough. And number two, the offensive players that you've brought in because you want offense aren't hitting their shots.
Yeah.
So, like, what are you supposed to do here? Like, where's the give and take? Because I don't see where they're like, sure, can you trade somebody and try to go get somebody else? Maybe, but this team hasn't been able to trade what they've been offering for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point do you go out there and like make some drastic move? And again, like we've talked about this so many times, you don't make a move just to make a move.
Yeah.
You make a move because you're not good enough.
Yeah, you got to get better.
Just straight up. Like
Yeah.
that. Unfortunately, this team right now is not good enough. And so, especially in a Western Conference where 500 is the 12th seed or the 11th seed, and that's where the Kings are. I mean, if people haven't looked at the standings, I think they're 12th.
They're 12th right now.
Yeah, right now.
Mm-hmm. But again, 8 and 9, is why I would feel much different. I promise. If they had started, like I said, well, it's what are the I have not followed the good Lord, the 76ers closely over the last couple of days. But if they were the Sixers at 3-13, yeah, it's not getting better in Philly. If they were the Sixers at 3-13, I'd feel so much differently.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're worried about if players quit and this and that. Like that's when we can have a conversation. If the Kings lose their next 6, great, let's talk. But I think right now what we're looking at is just an overall roster issue. And it was nice to see like Keegan Murray last night figured out a way to affect the game without his 3-point shot falling.
I love what I saw.
He got aggressive moving off the ball.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's nice. He has to hit threes. Like that's going to be such a large part of his game. But like that's nice. But Herter's still struggling. I still think maybe you throw Keon in the starting lineup for now. Since Keon's apparently just a better 3-point shooter than Kevin Herter.
No, I mean, certainly.
I just, if you're talking about what can the coaching staff do, like that's one thing.
Yeah.
Try that. Just set a different tone. I don't know.
But I also, and I agree. I mean, like, look, at some point you do have to mix it up.
You have to
right?
That's it. Mix it up. You just do something different.
Yeah. And I also think something different might happen tonight. Malik Monk might show up.
Sure.
And might be healthy enough to play. He went from out to doubtful to questionable and then out all in the span of like 6 hours, something like that. So he was out.
Like me with a hangover.
Yeah, he was out all day on Saturday. I wake up Sunday morning and he's doubtful.
Yeah, this is God, like looking in a mirror.
Then coming up to the point where Mike Brown is about to talk, he gets upgraded to questionable.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Mike shows up, he says he's out.
Ah, God,
he's out. So this very much feels like Malik Monk will play tonight. Mm-hmm. And it's possible that he won't, but it's also like it's right there. This is kind of the buildup.
Yeah.
You have to go through specific steps within the portal.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what helps. But at the same time, you can't get outscored. What was it? 44-9 from your bench.
Yeah. Like come on, man.
You need more firepower on the bench. And that's where I think Kevin Herter is a more natural scorer than Keon Ellis. I think Keon Ellis.
I would agree.
So maybe that's it. But at the same time, if I'm Mike and I'm looking at this the right way, well, I'm looking at like the way that I think that a lot of people should look at it is that I don't want to scapegoat anybody because I don't think that Kevin Herter has been the problem. I don't think Kevin Herter's the problem.
The only reason I bring up Kevin Herter is not because he's the issue.
No,
it's just okay, you put somebody else in the starting lineup on the bench.
You got to try something different.
Right. Like it's not,
Yeah.
this isn't to single out Kevin Huerter. It's because they're not sitting any of the other 4 guys. That's it. Like that's the only reason. But that was also why, like, part of me thinks if you're Mike Brown, why not just throw your hands up and say, okay, the hell with defense. We're just going to run.
Yeah.
To heck with it. Like, forget the crash zone. Forget all that. Like, we're just going to, if we got to pull the ball out of the basket and run off of that, we'll do that. We'll run off makes, we'll run off misses. We're going to go 9-man rotation, and it's just going to try and cause chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, okay, but that was why I started this whole thing with DeMar DeRozan. Because even if you're going to try that, are there going to be points in the game where he's just going to slow it down because he needs to operate on a basketball court? He needs to operate at his pace and to get to his tough 15-footers. And that's just that no matter what the offense looks like, no matter what they're running, like that's just what he's going to contribute.
I'll tell you, Kyle, coming into this to training camp and like the first initial things that people said about DeMar DeRozan, nobody changes his pace. He plays at his own pace, and it's something that everyone was so impressed. He never gets rattled. He plays at his pace, and everybody else kind of just has to, like, you're watching it play out and you're thinking, well, there's no way that's going to work. And then boom, he hits it. It sure does feel like at this point that he's playing at his own pace and everyone else has to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a problem.
I would agree.
Where you thought it was a good thing, it might not be the good thing. I mean, the Sacramento Kings right now, they're 17th in the NBA in pace. That's not great. Not great when you have the fastest point guard in the league and you've got a great rebounder who's hitting outlet passes and the ball's flying up the court. So there are moments where this thing is slowing down, and it's not just a harp on one guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the collection that feels off. And I don't know what the answer is to change the collection. I don't, because it's not like, again, we can talk about swapping out Keon Ellis and Kevin Huerter, but that's just treating a symptom. You know, it's not curing anything. It's just a Band-Aid.
No, I think I think for me, the reason you even bring that up is because it's just when people go, oh, you got to fire Mike Brown, he's got to do something. Like, okay, that's something he can do, I guess. Like, it's not going to make the Kings champions.
Nope.
But maybe that happens and they go on a 4-game win streak, and okay, you got to calm things down a little bit. Like, all right. Like, it feels like the boat is capsizing, and that's just kind of a thing they can try and do.
Yep.
But to your point, it's tossing buckets of water out of a ship with holes in it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe it helps for a second, but like, you got a problem in the bottom of the boat there.
Yep.
An iceberg just ripped a hole in the side of it. Yeah, man. I need to do some math on this, because De'Aaron, in the games where DeMar DeRozan was out, went 35 shots, 30 shots, 23 shots. And since he's come back, it was 20 and then 16.
So 88 shots over 3 games. I believe that's what you just said.
Yep. And
so
36 cents.
28 shots, 28.3 shots per game.
Which is probably untenable for a full season.
Yeah.
But De'Aaron, and he's actually up. I was looking at this among the leading scorers. He's tied for 6th in the league in scoring right now. The only player averaging more field goal attempts, there's 2 players averaging more field goal attempts per game than him, in the top 6, and it is LaMelo Ball and Giannis. Giannis 21.5, LaMelo at 24. But so much of De'Aaron's 20.5 are weighted by those 3 games where DeRozan was out.
Did you just say that LaMelo Ball is averaging 24 shots?
Yeah, that's the thing I said. Yeah, that I just blew past it, but yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that's happening right now.
Say what?
Did you know LaMelo Ball, just while we're here, let's have some fun. LaMelo Ball is averaging 30 a night.
Yeah, but he's averaging 24 shot attempts. That's
on
insane.
Now. I did not realize he was averaging 30 points a game.
I mean,
Jokic is averaging 30.3. LaMelo's at 30.2. Jokic is doing it on 19.5 shots a game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to what we saw last night.
Yeah.
I mean, De'Aaron Fox scored 31 points on 16 shots.
That's just like I can't get over the fact he had 24 at halftime. And then what do you take 5 shots in the second half?
No, he took 7 shots in the second half, but again,
7 shots.
You walked out into the third quarter, and right away it was very apparent. De'Aaron Fox, you need to go stand over there, and we're gonna try to get DeMar DeRozan and Domantas Sabonis going. And hey, look, I'll be the first one to say, hey, somebody else has to step up. Somebody else has to be part of this.
Mm-hmm.
One guy is not going to win the game on his own. But at the same time, like, hey, how about this is working really well? Let's pepper in some of what isn't working and see if we can get them going. And next thing you know, we might have the ball rolling. What you don't do is take what's working well and basically sideline it and then go to what's not working and try to fix it. Because by the time you got to that point, like, it was a mess. The second they pulled De'Aaron Fox off the court in the fourth quarter, the Kings were up 1. He came back in the game. They were down 5, and the game was virtually over. He was out a little over 2 minutes, and in that 2 minutes, the tide shifted, and they were trying to track down the whole time. And then again, it was 8 shots for DeMar DeRozan in the fourth quarter, 6 shots, I think, in the third quarter. It was almost like a race to 18 shots. And what do you have? 19 points and 18 shots?
Yeah.
Versus 16 points and 31 points. He had 18 shots, and I think he had 19 points.
18 on 18.
18 on 18. Versus 31 on 16.
Insane.
Yeah. I mean, you don't need advanced metrics. And again, this is not to say that DeMar DeRozan is wrong and he's a bad player or anything else. It's just that, like, you have to have a better feel for what's happening in a game. And this team does not feel like they have a good feel for each other at all yet.
Mm-hmm.
And we're 17 games in. Like, what's the benchmark for, like, everybody's got enough time together? And I know missing a couple of players for a couple of games is a problem. But
that doesn't play for me.
No.
There's no 31 points on 16 shots.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So what are we talking?
When you're on that kind of heater, when you are on that type of heater, you should be taking 25 shots.
Yeah.
Just that's a 50-point night.
Well, even if we
probably win that game.
Let's just say he takes 6 more shots.
Mm-hmm.
That should roughly translate to about 11 points.
Mm-hmm.
So he would have been around 42.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you would hope. But again, I think the one good thing that I saw from last night, just to get to some of the positives that I did see,
sure,
was that when Keegan was in this same exact situation and his 3-point shot wasn't falling again, and he's the only other person who was getting shots in the first half. It was like De'Aaron at 9 shots, Keegan at 9 shots. No one else had a bulk amount of shots, but he kept missing from 3. Then he got angry. And I don't know if people can tell when Keegan got angry, but I was showing Kyle earlier before we came on the show. Go back and watch some of his dunks from last night. There was a moment where he gets up and then he aggressively hammers the ball down. He was not happy. He was getting physical, and he's like, nope. I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm done with taking a back seat. I'm done with being a passenger here.
Right.
Like, and boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden he's making back cuts. They're finding him. It
was awesome.
He must have had 4 or 5 dunks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he gets up to 21 points quietly, and then again, nothing. And just goes quiet. And it's just a really, really weird thing that this team does, where they try to take turns, but taking turns doesn't really mean taking turns. Keegan Murray, 1 of 1 from the field in the fourth quarter. 1 of 1 from the field.
1 of 1. 1 shot.
1 shot. And he played almost 10 minutes. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't, and it's not winning basketball. Just straight up, it's not winning basketball. You stop moving the ball. The fourth quarter, they had 3 total assists, Kyle. That's not winning basketball.
It's not. And it's not what makes this team successful.
No, it's why you scored 15 points.
Yeah.
You played losing basketball in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Straight up.
Bottom line. The starters, the non-DeRozan starters in the third quarter, 11 of 13.
Oh.
Let someone else cook, DeMar. It's
Yeah.
okay.
And again,
Like,
I don't think this is.
Go
It's
ahead.
not just all on DeMar. It's
No,
it's a
no, it's
system
not.
of a bigger thing where, like, on the court, you have to live in the moment and you have to hold each other accountable in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to say, hey, look, maybe it's not your night, but even if it is your night, let's get you easier looks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what we're doing right now isn't working. We've got to, the offense has to flow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not what's happening. There's, like, this thing is getting bottlenecked big time. And that's why the assist numbers are just so down.
21 last night.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
But on the season, it's what, 24 a night?
It's not enough.
It's like
whatever it is,
4 or 5 less per game than last season.
And I know that making threes would help a little bit on some of that.
Sure it would.
But there's an offensive flow issue here. And I don't know exactly why. Like, I don't know what the specific solution is. Because, like, we bring up DeMar DeRozan, but it's not just him.
No.
Like, this was an issue. It's been an issue.
Yep.
And I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah. I mean, for, everybody talks about how bad the threes are. The Kings are 26 in the league in 3-point shooting. They're 24th in assists.
Yeah.
Same thing.
And I think those, like I said, on some level, those two things go hand in hand, but it's not just making threes.
No, I totally agree.
There's more to it.
Although there are at least 4 games that they just flat out break. 4 threes a game.
Oh, dude.
And that would be,
What was the one that Herter missed last night that made the loud ass clank?
Oh.
And it hit something that was, I don't know. I don't have the broadcast on full volume, so I didn't hear exactly what happened, but I was sitting there watching, and you hear the clank when he missed it, but I couldn't get the.
I think the crazy thing is, Kyle, that you see the wide open misses from the Kings again and again and again, and then you go on the other end of the court, and I don't even think that they're poorly defended threes. Like, there's not just every single three that the other team is taking is wide open.
Mm-hmm.
But it sure does look like every single time they're shooting a three, it's like throwing a rock in the ocean.
Yeah.
It's just like
I feel so confident the other team is going to make it.
It's like the basket is like 4 times bigger on their end of the court.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, look at that. It doesn't matter who it is. It's some rando. Who was it last night? Clowney.
Yeah, Noah Clowney.
Noah Clowney just starts launching threes. It's like, all right.
5 of 8, I think you went.
Now
sure,
we're
man.
into that portion of the night. Like, what in the world is happening?
Yeah. It's really disappointing. Man. I'm off of 51 wins, guys.
You're off to 51.
I might get back there.
All right.
But I just this looks so much like last year. And that sucks because it was supposed to look so much different. And like visually it looks a little bit different because they have DeMar DeRozan now.
Mm-hmm.
But from just like that these last 2 games fall into that mold of kind of what we saw last year, where they lost at home to Detroit and to Charlotte, and when they lost on the road to the Blazers. They lose one on the road to the Blazers.
They lost
where they come out and it's
Wizards.
The Clippers and Nets are better than all of those teams were last year. Like, don't get it twisted, but they just don't. It's like they're sleepwalking, and there's no urgency. And that's what I can't wrap my brain around.
Yeah. It's tough.
All right. We'll keep talking about this. We got to get some NFL in here. Doesn't get a lot better when we talk about the Niners or the Raiders. But the vibes are down. We're going to try and keep them up, but not a lot of great things happening this weekend for the Kings, the 49ers, or Raiders. We're talking about it on the Insider, sponsored by Jiffy Lube. 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320 if you would like to join the program. That's James. I'm Kyle. We'll also look ahead to the Kings Thunder game coming up as well. How do the Kings bounce back? We'll talk about it on the Insider, sponsored by Jiffy Lube. It's ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Center. Okay, we're clear. I'll be right back.
What's going on, everybody? Last night, De'Aaron Fox had an offensive rating of 142 and a defensive rating of 118. So what is that, a plus 24? Keegan Murray, an offensive rating of 123, a defensive rating of 116. Kevin Herter, offensive rating of 116, a defensive rating of 117, so a -1. Demonis 108 and 113. And DeMar DeRozan had a 95 offensive rating and a 122 defensive rating. So a -27. That's tough. Colby Jones had an offensive rating of 18 and a defensive rating of 110. I did not miss that. An offensive rating of 18. And unfortunately, that was in 17 minutes. Brandon, I've asked Monty this question in a bunch of different ways. It doesn't matter. He built the team he's built, and he's rolling with what he's rolling with. Well, they were just trying to get throw some things at the wall and see. Look, I thought Colby was at least active, and he was. I thought he was pretty solid versus the Clippers, but overall, it's tough. Oh yeah, Aldrin J. That's right, baby. Aggies roll, and they've got I saw they might have a pathway to get to the championship. Like their first round isn't as difficult. I don't know. Frank Anwar, no. I see the John Collins chatter in here, and it's just show me in the last 4 years where John Collins has been part of winning. And that's not. I think John Collins has played really well this season, but playing really well and impacting winning is something different.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like if you just drop John Collins onto the Kings roster, if you just scrap or you just drop him on the roster, I think it's interesting. But you can't do that. You have to trade stuff.
Yes.
And I think you're then making yourself probably a little bit worse.
Well, I mean, John Collins cost you
19?
No, he's $25 million, and he makes $26 million next year.
Oh my god.
Cam Johnson's around 22. Yeah, Cam had some good moments last night, and we didn't even talk about the Nets were missing Dennis Schroeder, and I didn't even realize it really.
Yeah.
I mean, and what's his name? Who else were they missing? Dorian Finney-Smith.
Johnny, what'd I say? But see, if you trade Herter and Lyles for Cam Johnson, are you significantly better?
Yeah, I think it'd be more like.
Hour number 2, that's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. taking you right up to noon. Then we'll hand it off to D'Lo and KC, and they will take you to 4 o'clock. Trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the Kings. We'll look ahead to the game tonight against the Thunder. We got to start spinning this forward a little bit, and we got to talk about the 49ers as well, whose season basically came to an end yesterday in Green Bay.
Oh, yeah.
It's pathetic. I understand you're missing Brock Purdy, you're missing Nick Bosa, you're missing Trent Williams. I totally get it. I did not expect them to win. My issue with the 49ers yesterday was that they took the field like a team that knew it was over. And that's tough.
Kyle, the missed tackles in the first quarter.
They missed 15 tackles in the first half.
They missed, I think, 10 in the first quarter.
Like,
I don't even know what to, like, you're watching something unfold where you're like, hey, that team quit. That team's not ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's one thing to know that, like, look, when you don't have your starting quarterback, the defense should be so amped up and like coming into that game, the defensive identity has to be that we have got to hold the line. We have got to make this a low scoring game and give Brandon Allen opportunity with the weapons that he has to somehow keep us in this game. And I thought that the defense came out in the first drive and just flat out didn't show up.
Nope.
Flat out showed exactly who they were for that game and gave Brandon Allen absolutely no opportunity to win a game.
Nope.
And did Brandon Allen make some mistakes? Sure. But he's a quarterback who doesn't have a lot of experiences going out there. I thought he also made some really nice throws.
Brandon Allen was so far down the list of issues yesterday.
He was at the bottom of the list. That throw he had to Deebo Samuel where he just literally didn't catch the ball and let it go right to the defender. The third or fourth down where he hits Eric Sobert like right in the face because the dude's just like not ready. Like, what exactly is happening here? Like, did everyone not get the memo that you got a backup quarterback who's gonna do his best, but he needs somebody to pick him up? I thought Kittle picked him up in a huge way.
Absolutely.
That throw he made to Kittle on the back hip,
that was sick.
Unbelievable play. So, like, that guy was not a problem and gave you an opportunity, but to see so many other players just not show up, just be like, sorry if we're gonna carry Kings angst into the 49er talk, but
no, it's largely the same.
It's either that or we sit here and we play taps for 24 minutes during the
no, look, I think with the Kings we talk about roster issues. I think for the 49ers it's a little bit the same thing, and we talked about this before the year. Matt Barrows from The Athletic, who's covered the 49ers for a long time and does a phenomenal job. He said this was the most talented team he's ever covered, this year's 49ers.
He came on our show and discussed this with us.
Yes.
Yep.
The most talented team he's ever covered. All right. But I thought it was a little top heavy, and I think you're seeing that now. Because when Fred Warner's going to have a bad game, which he did yesterday, Fred Warner was not good yesterday, and frankly hasn't been good in like 6 weeks, but that's a whole other conversation. Fred Warner, not good yesterday. George Kittle was great. Deebo Samuel, not existent.
Just vanished.
We talked about Deebo last week. Here's the biggest sign that you know that Deebo Samuel is not right, whether he is old and washed or whether he's hurt or whatever it is. That is a spot where in the past, Kyle Shanahan is drawing up 10 plays just to get the ball in number 19's hands, or number 1 now, just to get the ball in Deebo's hands. They had one designed screen for him yesterday, and it was off like an end around flea flicker. And it was a play that he probably houses a year ago. He took it for a nice gain, I think 19 yards. But that was it. No Deebo in the backfield, no jet sweeps, nothing creative, because they know that he's just not effective. And when Deebo's not playing at that level, when Christian McCaffrey is not playing at the level he was at last year, which is a big problem, their offensive line is not good. Like, McCaffrey doesn't look like he has the juice he had last year, which makes sense. He hasn't played football in 12 weeks or whatever it had been. 10 weeks. But I get it. But they have so many issues that go beyond just coaching or just the backup quarterback being in or just Nick Bosa being out. Like, yesterday was the biggest sign to me that this Super Bowl hangover, quote unquote, is to me a major culprit for them this year in what this season has been. I think they're mentally fried. I think they're physically beat up. And I just don't think they have it in them to make another run, which like makes sense. They've been on deep playoff runs in 4 out of the last 5 years. And that's why I think this offseason is going to be a huge one. Because it's the difference between, okay, you're going to reset or you're going to reach a point that you have to tear everything down and build up from ground zero.
Yeah, I think, Tom Brady on the broadcast, I think he made a very, very smart point. He said, like, look, this team has been all the way to the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, like, for the last 5 years. He's like, just start doing the math. We're approaching like 15, 16 games. He's like, that's an entire extra season that they've played. And like, it feels like a team that can't get off the mat. Like they're deep into a heavyweight fight and now they can't get off the mat. And so, I mean, this was always like an inevitable thing. Teams don't typically like fade subtly. It's usually a sharp drop off, but you're hoping that they can bounce right back and show you something.
Yeah. And we'll see, man. But I don't I don't know what the Kings are going to do or not do. I would imagine that I would imagine Vivek would operate differently than Jed York would from an ownership standpoint. Because Jed York has been through this before, and I think he is probably more cautious to make a rash decision in the middle of a year or in the middle of an off season. But again, I don't know what each organization's MO is. What I do believe and what I do think is that the 49ers aren't going to fire Kyle Shanahan. If that's your chosen solution, okay. I'm not going to okay. I'm not even going to argue with you. Like if you've seen enough, if you believe that there's zero chance that you're ever going to win a Super Bowl, okay, that's fine. I don't think the 49ers feel that way. And I'm not at the point that I think that he's incapable of winning a Super Bowl. Like they've been a couple plays away twice, and they've been an injured quarterback away from going to the Super Bowl, potentially going to another one. And they were a dropped Jaquiski Tartt interception from potentially going to another one. Like the plays have been there. So I'm not ready to go there yet. But I will say that yesterday was the first time they've looked just wholly unprepared and uncompetitive. That's the first time in a long time that it's looked that bad, which puts up a little red flag for me. The second thing is next year starts the clock. Next year starts the clock on, do you remain competitive? Are you still making deep playoff runs every year? Or are you back to mediocrity and you're going to win 8 games a season for the next 2 or 3 years? Because that's where I don't think the 49ers are going to be okay. That's where I think Jed York draws the line, is it multiple years of non-competitiveness where you're just an afterthought.
Yeah, it's brutal to watch because, like someone mentioned earlier, one of the callers, Mike could just say, hey, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, Mike Brown is not going to walk away from, like, I don't know, 17, 18 million bucks that he's owned after this season.
And Mike Brown loves to coach basketball.
Yeah. Now, I could see, I don't think this would be the case, but I could see a world in which Kyle Shanahan says, hey, I think I need a reset. I think I might need a year off and I might need to like recharge and pop up somewhere else and do this again. Because he's young enough, and there are things that run their course. You're 6, 8, 10 years into a run, and you're like, okay, this might not be like I might need a reset, because he can see what the future is for this team. So I don't think that's going to happen, but I would also say, hey, like if it were to be like, if we're looking at the King situation versus the 49ers situation, it would be more likely that Shanahan would say, hey, I could use a break and walk away. I don't think he would, but there's always that possibility versus, Mike Brown. Mike Brown knows that he can pop back up and be an assistant coach in the league for another 15 or 20 years. Like he's going to
be an assistant coach as long as he wants to.
Yeah, he can make, $2.5 million for the next, like 15, 20 years and just be like, hey, be a lead assistant and he'll be just fine. So, and Shanahan, the same thing. Shanahan would get If he walked away, he'd get 6 offers the next day. Like,
Yeah.
everyone would want him. So, yeah, it's just tough. Like, sometimes these things run their course, and you've just got to, sort of figure out how you fit into the puzzle long term.
And I think specifically with Kyle Shanahan, and the reason I'm willing to give him some grace here is their entire offense is built around having these positionless players, right? Deebo Samuel he's the wide back, and Christian McCaffrey does a lot of the same type of stuff, but kind of the other way around. Running back first, wide receiver second. And you were missing him for 9 weeks, and then when he came back in week 10, he's clearly not up to speed just yet. Deebo Samuel looks like a shell of himself. And when you're missing those two kind of foundational pieces of your offense, it gets a lot harder. So it has to look different. Their offense has to be different just foundationally next year.
Yep.
And that's why you have him. Like, that's why he's there. He's supposed to be the offensive genius on the cutting edge of offensive football and staying one step ahead of the league, and everybody's following his trends. Okay, that's fine. But what's the next step now? You may not have Deebo, and if you do, it's not the same one. You're gonna have Christian McCaffrey, but okay, to what end? Like, what level of player are you getting, and can you adapt to using 2 running backs, going running back by committee, splitting him out more as a receiver? However, I don't know. But that's why, okay, he has enough leeway for me to get that opportunity to make those changes. But from that point, like, that's got to work. And with Mike Brown, I'm not even. They're 8-9.
They're 8-9.
They're something that caller said before we went to break, by the way, that jumped out to me was when he said, "Hey, the Kings are 8-9. I'm not ready to panic yet." A couple years ago, we would have killed to be 8-9.
Yeah,
I'm past that, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I have so much higher expectations than comparing them to teams that weren't going to the playoffs.
Yeah,
I can't get there. Sorry.
I remember the season where Harrison Barnes in December made the claim that he wasn't going to shave until they made it to the playoffs, and then he ended up with like a full beard. And they didn't make the playoffs, and then he got a sponsorship to get his face shaved during the offseason. Pretty rough. Like,
that's tough.
I remember those times too.
Yeah, and I get it, but I can't get there, dude.
No.
This is not. I've said this before. I'm not holding the Kings' hand and going, "Oh, hey, good job! Wow, almost 500. Look at him go."
Mm-hmm.
We are so far past that.
No, I'm with you.
They have way too many good players.
Yep.
So, anyways. One thing they got to do is bounce back tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's talk about it. That's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. Just want to remind you, it is pouring down rain. The holiday driving season is here. Get your car into Jiffy Lube now. Don't find out you should have taken your car to Jiffy Lube while you're driving to your holiday destinations, or like you said earlier, James, when you're at your holiday destinations.
That's right. And make sure that, if your kid's car, you're worried about, hey, the rainy season is here. I need to check those brakes. I need to check the tires. I need new windshield wipers. Bring your kid's car
oil
down.
Changed.
Yeah. Take care of the whole family.
Yeah.
Get down to Jiffy Lube.
Yeah. They open at 7:30 a.m. at most locations. Find the location nearest you at jiffylube.com. All right. The Kings play the Thunder tonight. The Kings enter at 8-9. The Thunder 12-4. It's their first matchup of the season. The Thunder, number 2, technically in the West right now. They're tied with the Warriors. They split the season series last year. The Kings won the first 2, lost the last 2. This is a matchup I kind of liked for the Kings last year at points, but Chet Holmgren's out. They brought in Isaiah Hartenstein. Chet Holmgren's not out. He has a hip injury. They brought in Isaiah Hartenstein, and they brought in Alex Caruso. Jalen Williams has really taken a leap this year.
Mm-hmm.
I no longer love this matchup for the Kings. I don't feel as good about it anymore. But this is, like, tonight, this is a gut check, what are you made of game. This is where your toughness, your grit, I don't even mind if they lose, because Oklahoma City's really good. I don't even mind if you lose this one. Winning it would be awesome. But can you be competitive? Can I get a good Kings game here? And if you just get outplayed by Oklahoma City, all right, stuff happens. Can you play well? Can you dig deep against a team that hadn't played since Wednesday? Oklahoma City?
Yeah.
You just played last night. What are you made of? That's my big question for tonight.
No, I think this is one of the bigger gut check games that the Kings are ever going to have.
Yep.
This is a moment where you can see how this thing can spiral very quickly. You don't get this one. That puts you at 4 losses in a row. You don't get the game against Minnesota. That's 5. You come back from Thanksgiving and go play a gritty, although not very good, Portland Trailblazers team who's finding their identity a little bit and who's already, played well against you. Like this is a moment where either you're going to be a team that stands up and is resilient, or you're going to fold. And 2 years ago, this team was so resilient.
Yes.
Every single time they got into this exact situation, they found a way to win. And the question is, can they do it again? Can they find that identity? And for all of the things that are wrong with this Kings team this season, I think for me, that's the biggest thing. I don't see an identity at all. I don't see them as a fast team.
Nope.
I don't see them as an offensive juggernaut. They're 10th in offensive rating. They're 15th in defensive rating. This is a better than 8 and 9 team, but that's not how they're playing. And so you got to find your identity right now. And I don't know how you do that. You got to have some really, really difficult conversations, but you're also on the second night of a back-to-back. There's not even a walkthrough today. There's nothing.
But honestly, like you don't get excuses. If you want to be that team, if you want to be that team that is a 50 plus wins playoff team, this is the game, man.
It is.
This is the exact type of game that you go get. Man, they've lost 3 in a row to the Hawks and the Clippers and the Nets. You're playing Oklahoma City now, who hasn't played since Wednesday. You're on the second night of a back-to-back. Go. It's tough. It's a tough spot. But if you want to be those dudes, you gotta win this one.
That's right. And if we were looking at the schedule before this stretch, you thought they'd beat the Hawks. You thought they had a 50-50, maybe better chance to beat the Clippers. You thought they'd beat the Nets. And then this is a game you'd probably lose.
Yeah, you go, okay, split those 4, you're fine.
Hey, you blew the three games before. Now it's time to put up or shut up.
That's it.
It is. And this isn't about coaching or anything else. This is about rolling the ball out there and playing the game. And if you can figure out how to play the game together and beat a good team, then you're going to grow from this moment, or you're going to use this as an excuse and you're going to fall further and further behind.
Because it doesn't get easier.
Nope.
You're at Minnesota on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Then you're at Portland. All right. But then you're home against San Antonio, who beat you by 20. Then you got the Rockets, who are playing really well. Then you're at Memphis, who's been playing well. Then you're at San Antonio again, where they beat you by 20. Get the Jazz, okay. But then you get the Lakers twice at home. Then you got Indiana, Detroit. Then you're at the Lakers again, Dallas. Like you're finishing out December with a really, really tough stretch of basketball.
And a bunch of games are at home. And I hate to tell Kings fans this, but this is one of the worst home teams I've ever seen.
It's crazy.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. This team is under 500 at home.
With one of the best crowds in the NBA.
Yeah.
And that's not me being in Sacramento saying that.
Nope.
Go listen to any national podcast. Go read when the Kings were making their playoff run a couple years ago. Go read about people in attendance at Golden One Center. The outside observers.
Yep.
They'll tell you it is one of, if not the best crowds in the NBA. There's no reason for the Kings not to have a fantastic home court advantage. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Hey, look, there are 3 teams in the Western Conference that are under 500 at home. It's the Kings, the Jazz, and the Pelicans. And the Jazz and the Pelicans, just so everyone knows, they're 4-win teams. They're the worst teams in the Western Conference and 2 of the worst teams in the league.
That's so brutal.
To not have a winning home record is just shocking to me.
I don't get that.
No, it's just the most bizarre thing.
And it's been a problem for 3 years now.
Yeah, it like again, they won 48 games 2 years ago, 25 wins on the road, 23 at home. They won more games on the road than they did at home.
Come on, man.
Even during the bad years, during the 90s, when the Kings were a perennial loser, they still gave you all they had at home. They still won 20 plus games at home every single year. This is, to me, it's one of those weird anomalies where a team that can't figure out how to win on their home court, and it doesn't make any sense because everybody else in the league loves your sightlines because they hit every shot they take. Like,
yeah, apparently.
Whatever it is that, like, I don't know what the home road splits are for shooting, but I'm going to guarantee that the opposition is shooting way better in Golden One than they are anywhere else.
Maybe I'll deep dive on that.
Yeah.
See if I can figure it out. I just don't understand it, man. But look, you got to go get this one. If you lose and you play great, maybe we can have a different conversation. But they've put themselves in a spot where their toughest game of the year so far is one that, hey, you kind of need it.
Yeah, you kind of need it.
Don't want to be 2 games under.
9-9 feels a whole lot better than 8-10.
So much better, especially going to Minnesota.
Yep.
We beat you twice.
Yeah.
Ick.
Not great.
The Kings are giving me the ick. Let's talk starters. Here's your starting lineups for tonight. The Sacramento Kings. I imagine it's going to look the same.
Probably.
If it looks different, if Mike Brown says, I got to change something up tonight, do you think it's just Keon for Herter?
Yeah.
That's the most kind of logical.
Yeah, I think that's the
made.
most logical move, especially with SGA rolling through town.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, because you're not sitting DeMar DeRozan, you're not sitting De'Aaron Fox, you're not sitting Keegan Murray, you're not sitting Domas.
Nope.
And if you do, then we're having it is code red. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, and like, in all honesty, I think Kevin Huerter's had a rough shooting start to the season, but overall he has not been horrible. Like, he has held his own in plenty of games. His defense against Cam Johnson last night, he had that sequence where he absolutely shut him down and then blocked his shot. Like, Kevin Huerter is competing.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
He is competing. Like, there's also the play where he moonwalked. I'm not sure everyone saw that. He was backing up through, like, trying to play defense. He just got out of position, had no other way to. He just tried to stick with the man. Didn't let him dunk. That's it. So sometimes you get out of position. You got to do weird things. It's fine.
For Oklahoma City, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, Lou Dort. I imagine it'll be Kason Wallace and Aaron Wiggins. That was their starting lineup in their last game. They've got some weird injury stuff. So I'm not 100% sure what their starting lineup's going to look like. I know Isaiah Hartenstein is back.
Yeah,
maybe they start him.
That's probably where they're going to go.
He didn't start their last game, but he might start this one.
But he was really effective in their last game.
Yeah, he does just every the Hartenstein and Caruso acquisitions were just sick. Like, man, they probably overpaid for a center, especially when you have Chet Holmgren, but he can coexist with Chet.
Oh,
he
I
and
think
Chet
so.
Can play together. Some of the stuff they were Oklahoma City people posting on Twitter during preseason. Some of the stuff they were doing, like the 2-man game stuff they were doing, was nuts.
Yeah, we might not get to see that in reality, though, throughout the entire season.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if Chet can get back at some point, but I mean, Chet broke one of his, like, the blade on his hip.
Not a good injury.
No.
What's King's injury report look like?
We've got a questionable Malik Monk. There's a possibility he plays tonight. Outside of that, Devin Carter's still on the injured list. Will be reevaluated in January. Nothing else to report, at least for right now. The injury report, because the Kings played last night, won't come out until later in the day.
For the Thunder, Alex Caruso, he has a hip injury. He is out. Isaiah Joe is questionable for tonight. Ousmane Deng also out with a finger fracture. Chet Holmgren, we just mentioned, is out as well. J-Dub, Jalen Williams, the forward, also out. He has a hamstring injury. He's been out a while. And then, of course, Nikola Topic, our draft pick, had an ACL injury. He is out for the season. That's the Oklahoma City injury report. We will get to matchup of the game. We'll get to keys to victory. We'll get to all of that next here on ESPN 1320. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. That's James Ham and Kyle Madsen. We're back in a second on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader.
What's happening, everybody? Yeah, the Royale thing is weird. And to be honest with you, I could care less. I have a weird. I don't care about jerseys. What's going on tonight and what everyone's wearing, and I don't care about weird mascot things. I'm a basketball guy. I'm trying to see, what did Domas do against the Knicks last season? 19 points, 12.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists. The turnover issues have been a huge issue for Domas. Just keep showing up. Hey, Fred VanVleet has been fined.
That's it?
$50,000 for confronting and directing profane language towards the officiating staff. Didn't you do like the Oprah? Like you get an F-bomb and you get an F-bomb?
Yeah, he went, you suck, you suck, you suck. And then he goes, you see him go, he goes, bitch asses. And then he walks over to the ref that tossed him and sticks his finger like in his face and goes, you're a bitch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry for the language, but that's exactly what he said.
That's it reminds me of the what's his name? Joakim Noah. Joakim Noah got tossed, and I think he got tossed in Sacramento where he did something very similar. Loud exit.
Gosh, shout out to Wilsey Stats, dude.
He hit you with something?
Yeah. Hey, hang on one second. Jesse, are you listening to us? No, you're good. Is he listening to us? Jesse, are you listening to it? Yeah. 11:45. Okay. Crushing it. Why is that? Oh, there we go. Atlanta shoots 34.2%. This is via Wilsey. Shoots 30. I'm going to round down and up. 34% from three on the season, 42 at Golden One. Brooklyn, 38 for the season, 49 at Golden One. Clippers, 37 for the season, 47 at Golden One. Minnesota, 38 for the season, 40 at Golden One. Phoenix, 37 and 30. Portland, 33 and 18. Toronto, 33 and 29. And then Utah, 33 and 46.
Like they shot better?
Yes.
Everybody
time? Except Toronto, Portland, and Phoenix. Oh, no. Yeah, Toronto, Portland, and Phoenix. Those are the three teams who shot worse than their season average.
Well, it's good to know that I'm not like seeing things.
No.
Scotty Barnes? Yeah, Sean, DeRozan and Herter and a pick for Scotty Barnes is not going to happen. He's the face of the league. Zach, how many times are you going to post the same thing? No, the Kings aren't going to trade Fox or Sabonis. At least I can't imagine them trading Fox or Sabonis. he had to try to give these guys a break. And he also, I think there was the TV timeout happened right at that time.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
All right, lots to get to. We got a caller to get to. We got some fun numbers from Will Z Stats to get to. But first, Kings Thunder tonight. James Ham there. I'm Kyle Madsen. We are sponsored by Jiffy Lube. It's a big one for the Kings against the number 2 seed in the West, Oklahoma City. Their first game against them this season. And man, we talked about it last segment. It's one the Kings kind of got to go get.
Yeah.
That's tough to say against Oklahoma City, who has just kind of beaten everything in their path this year. But it's a position the Kings have put themselves in. So let's talk matchups of the game before we get to keys. The one that jumps out to me, I think they're going to put Lou Dort on De'Aaron Fox quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
They might put him on DeRozan just because he's a bigger body. But they have so many different defenders that they can throw at perimeter players. Alex Caruso being out's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
He is an awesome perimeter defender, second team all defense last year. So him being out is a big deal, but I think there are going to be some matchups where it's Lou Dort on De'Aaron Fox. And that's one I'm watching for.
Yeah, me too. The other matchup I want to see is Keegan Murray versus Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Mhm.
I want to see if he can slow him down.
Yeah.
You're not going to stop him, but you have to be worried about foul grifting and about getting in foul trouble. I think Keon Ellis can do some good work there too.
Sure.
But Shai is he's one of those players, man. He's just like, he's so tough to defend.
Also a really good defender. They might just throw Shai on Fox and call it good.
He's a good defender, but he's more of a steal passing lane guy, a gambler, than he is like a lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a really good defender, but I don't like, they have other guys that they're going to expend energy with
Sure.
to defend Fox.
Sure. Yeah, and I think Lou Dort's going to be one of them, but that's going to be really interesting because Dort is a big body, really good perimeter defender. Can De'Aaron Fox just be faster than him? Just go first step, blow by, and force some rotations. Like that's what I would like to see tonight. Whoever's defending De'Aaron Fox, let the offense run through him. Let him kick it to DeMar DeRozan for an open 15-footer instead of DeRozan plotting into a contested 15-footer. Let him kick it out to Keegan for 3 after he touches the paint. Let him hit some floaters, get some tough shots. Maybe get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in some foul trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of good things that can happen when the ball's in De'Aaron Fox's hands. And that's the other thing. We're talking about adjustments Mike Brown can make. That's one to me. Is maybe the offense just runs a little more through De'Aaron.
Yep.
Just on a play-to-play basis, Five's going to have the ball in his hands.
I'd also like to get back to a little bit of the Domantas Sabonis De'Aaron Fox 2-man game.
Sure, absolutely.
That thing's just disappeared. Like,
Yep.
they don't go to it. And like, I would like to see a little bit more of that.
Mhm.
Like, get Domas involved in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And for that matter, get DeMar DeRozan involved in a different way. Make him off-ball shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, it's not about dribbling. I need you to go stand in the corner for a couple of plays.
Mm-hmm.
We need to space this thing out. We need you to go over to the side and let these two cook and see if they can get going and get some sort of, momentum building.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll start adding in the other pieces.
Yeah. So how do the Kings do it tonight, James? How do they beat a very good Oklahoma City team, albeit a banged up Oklahoma City team? They are still very good, extremely well coached, a lot of toughness, really good defensively. They have an MVP candidate in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They are excellent. So let's get to some keys to victory. The things the Kings need to do to win tonight. James Ham, number one.
Number one, no more excuses. Like, this is it. Your season isn't on the brink, but it's approaching that.
Mhm.
It's approaching a major change moment. And this is one of those times where a team needs to step up. They need to come together. They need to hit 3-point shots.
Mm-hmm.
Stop making excuses for why you aren't hitting things. Go out there and be better. Like, at some point,
Pretty
it has to be on the players on the court to actually produce, to stop turning the ball over in random spots, to start playing better as a team. And I know that sounds like a simplified, just fix it moment, but at some point you have to take ownership over what's happening if you're a player and you've got to try your best not to do more, but to fit into the system and to do the right things at all times.
Yeah, that's what I think the entire season is going to be predicated on. Is how they adjust to those. How do they adjust to A, what defenses are doing, but B, how do they adjust to ensure they're operating within this system that 2 years ago was the best offense in basketball?
Yeah,
that's it. Number 1 for me. I need Keegan to stay active, man. I think his 3-point shot's going to fall. At some point, I feel I am very confident in Keegan as a shooter. Whether it happens tonight or in 10 nights, I don't know. But one thing he can do in the meantime is do what he was doing last night. Cutting really smartly off the ball, playing out of the dunker spot, playing good defense, grabbing offensive rebounds. They had that one stretch where he grabbed 3 consecutive offensive rebounds at the end of the game.
Yep.
I mean, just continuing to do that. He can impact the game in so many ways that go beyond his 3-point shot. That his when Kevin Huerter's 3-pointer's not falling, it's like, all right, well, whatever you can give will be great. But when Keegan's 3-point shot's not falling, it's like, all right, you got other things in your bag. You need to go to them.
Yeah, they've even gone to him in the post.
Yeah,
like I like the post up, and I mean, this is one of the top college post up players in the nation during his final year at Iowa. Like, get him the ball wherever you can.
Yeah,
let him cook.
Yep. Number 2.
Understand the moment. This thing could very well come undone, and it's time for the players to hold each other accountable on the court. Like, understand that this is not a good moment for your franchise, for your team. This is a moment where instability can happen, and I hope the players sense it, and they come out and give their best performance and work together to try to improve what's happening, because you can keep switching out players, you can keep switching out coaches. At the end of the day, somebody's got to perform, and if you don't get that that's where this moment is right now, then you're not looking over at half court at your ownership, guys. Vivek Ranadive is sitting right there watching this thing, and you're not seeing the look on his face, because it's a look of disappointment.
Yeah.
And a frustration.
Yep.
And that's typically when things go south.
Yeah. Number 2 for me, something we talked about a lot. I need more De'Aaron Fox. If that means less DeMar DeRozan, less Kevin Huerter, less Domantas Sabonis, whatever it is, I need the offense to run through De'Aaron as often as humanly possible. Doesn't mean he needs to shoot it every time, but let him be the one facilitating. Let him be the one that's breaking down defenses. Let him be the one that's setting the pace and setting the tone. Like, that's who he is. They need to start ushering in this era of Kings basketball where De'Aaron is the 1A. There was never a question in Golden State that it was Steph Curry and he was that dude. There's not a question in Oklahoma City that SGA is that dude. There's no question in Dallas that Luka is that dude. I need there to be no question in Sacramento that De'Aaron is that dude. And I'd like to see it start in the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I hope I'm not crazy.
No, you're not crazy.
Number 3.
I think, Mike Brown always talks about how the players have freedom. They have freedom to do a lot of things on the court. I need some of that freedom to go away. I need him to call plays. I need him to, I get that they want to push the pace and they want to run up and down the court. And that doesn't allow for Mike to call out plays every single time down the court, right? But there are too many times where the freedom, I feel, is not being, you're giving freedom where freedom might not be a good idea.
I agree.
It's like it's
being utilized the wrong way.
You can only trust your teenagers to stay at home for the weekend and not throw a party so many times before, heaven forbid, they throw a party. We're at that moment where, like, you've given a lot of freedom and you need to take some of that freedom away. And you also need to not follow a substitution pattern. If someone's not playing well or someone's doing something that's detrimental to what's happening on the court, you need to pull them. And it doesn't matter how long they've been in the league or what their nameplate says. You got to pull them, and you got to have conversations that aren't comfortable, because that's where your team is right now.
Number 3 for me, last one. While this is sort of piggybacking off what you were saying, when you get into your half-court offense, all right, run some plays. But also, if you can get out and run, do it at every opportunity. Don't let their defense get set up. because that's where they're going to be really, really like they're going to be really tough to score on no matter what. But I think the Kings have enough speed that if they can, especially off a miss, you can get out and run even a little bit and get a 3-on-2, get an open 3, whatever you can do to push the ball ahead and not let OKC's defense get set. I think you got to do it.
Well, that, and just keep in mind that OKC, what you see in the first half from them is usually very different than what you see in the third quarter.
Yep.
This is like the old style Warriors where you think you're doing great and everything's awesome. They go to halftime, they come up with a different game plan, and they thump you in the third quarter, which is exactly how the Warriors ended so many games that they were trailing at half.
Yep.
In the third quarter,
Just
where the
up by
fourth
20.
quarter didn't even matter. Just they ran a team over. And so OKC has a little bit of that in them, and you need to make the adjustment.
Yep, no doubt. All right, he's James. I'm Kyle. Kings Thunder tonight. We'll also have Monday Night Football for you tonight, and it's going to be a good one. Ravens at Chargers. Coverage begins at 4:30 right here on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader. 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. We'll get to Mad Props with Jesse here in a bit. But first, we got to get to Don. Don, what's going on?
What's up with it, Kyle? Hammer, what's going on, man?
What's up, bro?
What's up?
Oh, man, just vibing, man. I'm just laughing. It's laughable. The Kings got a chance to turn it around. Like, the fire Mike Brown, that's crazy, dude. Like, James, I'm with you, man. The whole talk, like, firing Mike Brown and firing Kyle Shanahan is two different stories. Totally two different stories, bro. Period. Kyle Shanahan is wanted to be fired. Mike Brown, bro, is still trying to get it together and still trying to find his pieces. Monty McNair, bro, you got to work with Mike. That's all I got on that note, Kyle. I'm going to let y'all carry on.
Appreciate you, TC. Thanks for the call. Shout out to TC, man.
Saw that coming.
I saw him trying to call earlier because you start to recognize people's caller IDs.
Yeah.
So I saw him trying to call earlier, but it was always when we had somebody on. So salute to TC. Appreciate the call. Yeah, I'm not at fire anybody point yet.
No.
But I understand if somebody is or that people are. I understand the frustration, no doubt. It's warranted, man. There's not a level of frustration to me that is unwarranted with the Kings right now, especially and that's born out of expectation, right?
Yeah,
like that's the reason people are frustrated.
Hey, it's okay.
They're supposed to be a lot better than they are right now.
It's okay for Vivek Ranadive to want more out of his team. Like
yeah, man.
I agree.
Yeah,
like we all expect this team to not be in this situation that they're in. Like, but you have to be logical here. What's the easiest path forward? And what is the easiest path to chaos?
Yep.
And you need to know what the path to chaos is and how to avoid that. Because you've done this a few times. You've been down this path before, and nothing magically fixes ever.
Said this earlier, but we've seen the season is not over, but it's teetering. It is on the edge. Jesse Topping.
Hey, that's kind of scary. I've seen that a lot. Like
What?
with the Kings, like, oh, we're not on the brink, but hey, it's not looking good right now. I did not think that we were kind of this close.
Oh, it's close, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, like, look, I
Lose 3 in a row to Atlanta and the Clippers and the
No,
Nets.
it's ugly right now.
I'm a Man U fan, right?
Yeah.
And they fired Eric Ten Hag, and they
Ten
brought
Hag
it.
is so crazy.
They had a guy step in, an assistant, and did a good job, and they played really well for like 3 games. They got their new coach. Everyone's all excited, and then they play a team that has just got up and is probably going to get relegated at the end of the season in Ipswich, and they get a goal in the first like minute, and then nothing the rest of the game. It's like they are who they are. You're still the same group of players, still doing the same exact thing, still having no sense of urgency, and it's very similar to the King. I don't think that just there's going to be some magical switch that goes off, or maybe there is.
So I know we got mad props, but what's next then?
You got to do something. Like,
Yeah, like what are we doing? Let's talk about it then. Let's talk about it. Let's get ugly. What's next?
I mean, the first thing you have to do is make a lineup change. Like,
that's step one.
If you don't want to do a lineup change, and to be honest, I think the lineup change that they will do It might have some impact, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to scapegoat one guy, because I think the one guy who's going to lose his job here, if they do make a change, it hasn't been. I mean, he hasn't been great, but it also hasn't been the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is something much bigger.
Good idea from Norm in the chat. Just trade for Jason Tatum.
Yeah, that's it.
Let's say Herder and picks.
Why not?
Get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get Harrison Barnes back and trade him back to trade him to Boston finally.
More experienced Jason Tatum, I've heard. Harrison Barnes. All right, let's get to mad props. We started these on Friday, of course. We had the Kings game against the Clippers. We had the 49ers game against the Packers. Those games went mostly similar. Just ugly.
I don't even know how I did in mad props, but it felt disgusting. Just given how the Kings did this weekend.
Nobody was terrible. Nobody was terrible. You helped yourself by changing one of your picks.
Nice.
Salute to you. Here we go.
It's time for Mad Props. 2 games, 2 props. Which number will be higher? That's for Kyle and James to decide. Here's Mad Props.
Yeah, here it is. So a strong week for the boys this week. Number 1 was Juwan Jennings catches or De'Aaron Fox assists. Jesse and I went with De'Aaron Fox. James, you rocked with Juwan Jennings. It was a close one. Juwan Jennings, 5 receptions. De'Aaron Fox against the Clippers, 7 assists. Jesse and I get the W on that one. But some revenge here for James. Christian McCaffrey touches or DeMar DeRozan points. We had another close one. James rocked with DeMar DeRozan. Jesse and I went with Christian McCaffrey. 14 touches for Christian McCaffrey. 16 points for DeMar DeRozan. That is a W for James. Next up, 49ers total points or Domantas Sabonis total points. James, you rocked with the Niners on this one. Jesse and I said, no. It was an easy victory for Domas. 24 points for Domas against the Clippers. Just 10 for the 49ers yesterday. That was embarrassing.
Ew.
That was so bad.
It was bad, but I feel like we all saw that coming.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone was shocked.
It was somebody said this. Is Sterling Bennett, who does post game with me at 95.7 The Game. He said they made all the mistakes they've made all year. They just didn't have 3 of their best players while making those mistakes.
Yep.
It's like, man, that is spot on. Like, that's exactly what we saw. Was the Niners are a sloppy, undisciplined team, whether they have all their best dudes or not.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we saw yesterday. So Jesse and I get a win on that one. The next one, George Kittle's receiving yards or Kings first half points. I don't know if you guys remember this, but on Friday, the Kings scored 29 points in the first half.
Oh, no.
George Kittle went over that by just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little.
I went with George Kittle. He had 82 receiving yards, just 29 first half points for the Kings. Ouch.
How does that even happen in today's
29
NBA?
points in a half of basketball.
Sometimes you get that in half of the first quarter.
The worst, it was 12 points in the first quarter, 17 in the second. So whatever happened in the first quarter, like, they didn't figure it out at all. It was like, oh no.
Yeah, man. That's the. We talked like so much of the conversation has been bigger picture today, but like the Clippers loss was way worse than the Nets one.
Way worse.
That was so significant. We haven't talked about it a lot because it was on Friday, but man,
I wanted to forget about it.
yeah, that was the reason that sucked is because it felt like they just tossed their jerseys on the court in a spot where we went, man, they've had 3 days off, get back game against the Clippers. Here we go. Here are the Kings, and then
They're just underwhelming.
you're extremely
Massively
underwhelming.
underwhelming.
That's it. That's a great word for it. The next one, spoiler alert, we all picked the same, and we were all correct on both of them. Fred Warner tackles or Keegan Murray 3-point attempts. We all went with Fred Warner. 6 tackles for Fred Warner, 5 3-point attempts for Keegan Murray. It was a tight one, but we all got the victory. And then we had 49ers punts or Keon Ellis made field goals. Keon has been hot lately, but not against the Clippers where he made 0 field goals. The 49ers punted 3 times yesterday. We all went with the 49ers. We all get a victory. James, you are in the basement this week at 3-3. 3-3 being in the basement's tough.
Ooh.
That's tough. Jesse, you're next up at 4-2. I went 5-1 this week, battling back
Here we go, Kyle Madsen.
in mad props. We got to figure out how we're going to do this on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we'll probably have to do like
I might just have to text you guys the props and have you guys respond,
Well, why don't
and then
we?
we'll talk about them on the following Monday.
So why not just do it Wednesday?
Yeah, we can do them.
Oh, we are doing shows Wednesday.
And
we do have a show Wednesday. Yeah, no, we'll do it
Yeah.
Wednesday. You're right.
And on Wednesday we have a Kings game that night,
Perfect.
and then we can play that against the
Maybe some Thursday night games
Thursday, yeah.
or Thursday games.
However you want to do it. It's
Great.
your
No, I
show.
love that. We'll just punt the Niners. The Niners are.
That's fine. Yeah.
I'm done with them.
To Narnia.
They get the double T.
Yeah, that season.
They're out for the year. You can come back next year, but they're done for the season. All right. We got about a minute. When's our out here?
What do you feel
talked about
better
that last
about?
night.
The Kings making top 6 or the Niners turning it around and
Kings.
somehow winning the NFC West?
Kings top 6. Niners to win the NFC West.
That's all it is at this point.
They have
right?
to win. They might have to win out.
Yeah.
And if not, you can lose probably one to either Buffalo or Detroit. And I don't think they're beating either of those teams. And if you lose both of those, you're at 8 losses. I don't think 9-8's winning the division.
Yeah.
Cardinals have a really soft schedule down the stretch.
Yeah, I think the 49ers, I'm pretty comfortable. This is what they are. They're going to lose probably a couple more games too.
Yeah, I think they're probably about 9-8.
Oh. Yeah. Well,
It's where they're at, man. Like
They
it just
Just a bad year, honestly.
when a team, yeah, they had a bad year. When a
at least
team
they
shows
get
you who
some
they
draft
are.
picks. Yeah.
But that's the thing that sucks is there's not really a path there. If the draft is today, they'd pick 17th.
Oof.
I mean, Miami's playing better, so maybe they come down and they can pass them up. But like the Rams and Tampa Bay, I don't know that they're going to be substantially pulling away from them in terms of draft position. So I think you're going to see them picking in that 16-17 range, no matter what. That's tough.
Tough.
It's a bad year to have a bad year, but also not a bad year, just a really mediocre year. And that's not great.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kenny, still wearing his Niner stuff. Look at him go.
It'd be like that
That's
sometimes.
how you got to do it.
It
Don't
do.
ever quit
It
on
do
your
be.
team.
Shout out to
They don't
shout
care
out to-
about
shout out
us,
to-
but we care about them.
Hell yeah. All right. D-Lo and KC coming up next. That is produced by the great Jesse Tapia. Appreciate your time as always, Jesse. James and I are done for today. We will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. D-Lo and KC next. Until tomorrow at 10, drink water and be nice to people. Bye.